afternoon. I'm Jihee Beak, and as usual, I'm going to present something about children. so, uh, there are several knowledge organization systems, or at least some projects for designing children's knowledge organization systems. So, for example, book houses from the Denmark is kind of old one, and science library catalog project from UCLA, Dr. Brockman's work mainly, and kids cataloging project. This project is mainly done by the Denver Public Library. And more recent one is International Children's Digital Libraries from Maryland, College Park, University of Maryland. This website is still available and still, their database is still active. But the other three projects, in some way they might, change their interface, but they're not really actively, available for children. And we can also include the children's and young adult cataloging programs from Library of Congress. And METIS is kind of new classification systems for school libraries. And actually METIS is developed by school librarians. So they know children's better and they kind of face many challenges. So they decide to develop their own systems, and this classification system has been implemented in several school libraries. And there is only few academic, publications, but we have to check, follow how effective this METIS system in the future too. And also many school library management system softwares like, Alexandra and what is the company name? I know, but I cannot pronounce it. Start with F. But they have library management systems designed for school libraries or sometimes for public libraries as well. But I cannot say there is any effort for children's knowledge organization systems. But when we look at how these systems or projects have been done, their focus is usually more for the information retrieval systems or more interface design. So how we design the interface more colorfully, include more graphic icons or something like that. But it is not really about how can we describe children's books, how can we represent characteristics of children's information-seeking behaviors or something like that. So we have to have some kind of question, something like, how were these systems designed? Are they, ethically designed, or do we understand who children are, or maybe we think children as a miniature adults? And where is the children's voice in these systems? Children have been studied in library and information science, very, much. But when we think about within knowledge organization, there is a lack of attention and consideration in knowledge organization systems for children. In that sense, I think I can claim that children in knowledge organization domain tend to be considered as a marginalized user group. So, and there are two components of knowledge organization system. One is the resource and user. And this should be connected, right, to design the more effective knowledge organization systems. But these two components are not considered in balance. Many studies even in knowledge organization systems more focus on how to describe, how to represent the nature of resource itself rather than representing users. And even within users, children, the number of studies for children is very limited. So that's why I say children's in knowledge organization is marginalized user group. And when we also evaluate those knowledge organization systems, we tend to evaluate after the system is implementing. But we really need to think about in the beginning of the designing system, whether we can reflect users or children's voice into that design level. So the purpose of this presentation is to discuss some ethical consideration when we design or develop knowledge organization system for children user group by applying the previous literature. I visit only 4 literatures. One is my advisor's work, the bibliocentrism, and second one is Homi Bhabha's third space theory, and Vygotsky's zone of proximal development theory, and Jotane's article about FBO and ideology of chaos. So let's visit the first one, bibliocentrism. So at our first keynote, Jotanes explained what bibliocentrism is very well, so I don't think I need to go through it. But the main idea of bibliocentrism is the cataloging systems or standards are focusing on describing information from title pages. So title pages as a cheap resource kind of rules our cataloging standard. But how about children describe books? So here's a short stories. For my dissertation, I studied children's cognitive processes during the book selection. And one episode was 2 children work together. They visit library together and they talk to each other and they try to find books. And I simply observed and just kept their conversations. And here is the book, My Dog. And this is the book cover of this book. One child checked out this book, and next time when they visited library, the other kid wanted to check out this book. But what they remembered about this book isn't about the title or author. Those informations are not coming from the title page. What they remember is 3 things. The first thing is the book had a dog, and the one child called the dog as a Mr. Doggy. Or actually when they say, I'm looking for Mr. Uggy books, like first time like, what is Mr. Uggy? What is it? And then I realized they mean doggy, So they remember Mr. Doggy. And the second thing is the book had a dog, the book had a fur that they can touch, they can interact. So when you open, actually this part, the dog head furry part, is a fabric that you can touch. So 2 children remember this book has something that they can interact. And the last one is book has, this book was shaped like a doghouse. They say, so they're really struggling in the library to find this book. Like, I'm looking for the Mr. Doggy book, and okay, let's find it. And they try, and they couldn't. And I asked them, why don't you ask librarian? They say, I'm afraid so. Why not? Because, and I encourage them to talk with librarian, and they walk to the front and ask, oh, excuse me, I'm looking for Mr. Doggy book. And guess what librarian said? Do you know what title is? And they say, no, okay. But it has a Mr. Doggy. And guess what next question from librarian?
Author.
Yeah, do you know who wrote the book? Of course not, right? So I say, why don't you just explain what do you remember about the book? and they talk about the three. They say, this is a red book, and it looks like this pointy like this, and they have a fur. And librarian couldn't help them. So they found eventually, but it was serendipity. They just found it by just look around the whole library. So, and the other example is this one. I assume everyone knows this author or this book, right? I didn't grow up here, so I didn't know how famous this book was. But every kid loves this book. And this book, because since this book is really, really famous, some kids remembered the author's name, but not everyone. But the one thing they always remember is this book has several layered pages they can play with, and they can make, the illustrations. So they always remember that. But our current knowledge organization system, cataloging system, can they describe this kind of characteristics? Because our cataloging standards are so focused on describing more bibliocentric information, they can't. So not only the non-books, even though these children's books are considered as a book, but because of the characteristics of children's books, our current knowledge organization system do not work for children. Okay, now let's move to Homi Bhabha's. And Homi Bhabha's third theory is, generally speaking, it was developed to address the cultural and more political situation of postmodernism or post-colonialism thing. So basically, when two people interact, they don't interact directly. There is always some middle space they can talk to each other, and this space creates the context. So according to the Homi Bhabha's word, the act of interpretation is never simply act of communication between the I and you, designated by in the statement. So even though I talk with you, I'm not just directly talking to you. There is something that make a meaning, make our conversation more meaningful, because we are sitting in this conference room, right? There is some context. So Hoboson also used Homi Bhabha's third theory and third space theory, and she defines the third space statement and its meaning are not the same thing. Meaning is determined not only the contents of the statement, but also by its context. That is, the interpretation of statement is not just negotiation between the statement or the person originating it and the person perceiving it. There is a space in between a context that shapes the meaning of the statement. So when I moved to this country, and when I started to adjust American life, I also brought my whole cultural experience, right? But here, the American culture is more dominant. But so was I forced to, change all my lifestyle to American style? No, right? We mix. The main concepts of third space is inclusion and hybridity and bridging. So we cannot force someone to follow some, we cannot colonize someone's idea. But how we communicate is we communicate through this third space. So when I look at this third space theory in children's context, in the beginning I said there is two components in knowledge organization. One is user and the other one was resource, right? It still applies here. There is a children and information. We often think they just directly interact, but actually as a knowledge organization professionals and librarians or scholars, we provide this third space. We create the third space. So, but the way how library systems or knowledge organization system work looks like one way. We try not to let children into this third space. We don't allow their, variations or uniqueness. But the third space provides, according to Ellenberg, he said the third space provides a concept whereby people with less obvious social, political, and or military powers can still exert influence on space by resisting the representative structure of dominant cultures. So children has been resisting, but we don't listen to them very well. The other theory is the Vygotsky's proximal development zone theory. Actually, the Homi Bhabha's was very influenced by Vygotsky's, so they have very similar idea. So one of his idea is there is a certain cognitive levels. So like actual development level includes some tasks that children can do alone, and the beyond the level of proximal development is tasks that they cannot do even though they have a help. So the zone of proximal development is the between this level of proximal development zone and actual development zone. Although Homi Bhabhas are not really following this particular theory, but we can see here is some kind of third space too, right? And Vygotsky said to help them to go through this zone, we have to provide some kind of cognitive tools or socially constructed tools, so they can scaffolding and move, their cognitive development. So overlap with third space, I think this is our role, right? Providing some cognitive tools, which is knowledge organization systems. But we have to ask one more time, do systems used in school libraries or children's library provide the necessary scaffolding that encourage children to explore, connect, and adopt these tools? And do children engage with systems in cognitively or meaningful way? So the answer is clearly no. We tend to force them to learn one thing that we create for adults or more bibliocentrically. So it's time to take action to create more child-appropriate or child-driven knowledge organization system. I just say action because I want to move to Joe Tennis's article. He talked about the four, I think, assertion for the engaged knowledge organization from Buddhism, right, Kenneth? Okay. So I really like his second assertion. Not taking right action in knowledge and organization practice is an act of violence. So we are violating for children because we do not take the right action for children. So violence can be understood, is Tennis's word, understood as the expression of force against self or other, compelling action against one's will on pain of being hurt. Violence is used as a tool of manipulation. We have to think about what we are doing to children right now, not providing child-appropriate knowledge organization system. Maybe we try to manipulate them. Some people might say children need to be educated, right? They have to learn how to find books in an appropriate way. But the children that I'm talking about is like early elementary school children. Their cognitive abilities are not able to learn something at this moment. So instead of forcing them to or try to manipulate them, why don't we provide some different, more child-appropriate knowledge organization systems? And here are 5 levels of intentionality. What is our intention? Why we do not provide child-appropriate knowledge organization system, or why do we maintain these systems and try to teach them? What is our intention? We want to think about this. Yeah. Okay, conclusion. I'm almost done. So the intention of this paper is to elevate awareness of current problems in knowledge organization system for children and bring ethical attention to develop knowledge organization system for children. And stop forcing children to change their thoughts or cognitive behavior or their languages when they come to third space. It's time to take a right action for developing a knowledge organization system for and by children. And to do so, I personally think we need more user studies with empirical data, so we have a better and deeper understanding of our user groups. Thank you.